So maybe you just bought a new car or you're thinking about getting a car you've had for a while tinted. This video is about the 5 top things you should look for when deciding on what tint shop should tint your car. So first, why should you listen to me? Well, I've been doing this for a long time. I started tinting windows about 14 years ago. I did that by hand with a knife, and then many years later upgraded to a plotter with some software. I now own one of the largest window tint companies in the United States. In fact, besides a couple of franchises that beat us last year, we were the #1 shop for XPEL window tint in the United States. So there's not another shop in the country that sold more window tint than we did in 2023. We're proud of that. We've tinted over 26,000 cars in the last 10 years. So we know what we're talking about when it comes to window tint. John asked me, if you were going to have your car tinted, what would you look for? Never really thought about it before, but I thought of 5 things that I would look for. #1 is going to be their online presence. And this is everything from Google reviews to their website. I would start with the Google reviews. If they're a shop that really doesn't have any Google reviews or they have a lot of negative ones, probably want to think about taking it elsewhere. Not a lot of them indicates to me that they probably don't tint that many cars. A lot of negative ones, of course, is obvious, but also you want to look at the negative ones. So, like for instance, we have almost 900 Google reviews for our main location, and we have a couple 1 stars, and some of them were legitimate mistakes on our part. We mess up. You tint 26,000 cars, sometimes you're going to mess one up. And I think it's the way that we take care of it and the way that whatever company you're looking for responds to those reviews and how they take care of it is a good indication of what they're going to do for you if you have a problem. So keep that in mind. Then check out their website. Does their website have content? Is it active? Have they worked on some nice cars? Do they have a reputation within your community? All of that kind of stuff should usually be able to be determined by the website. And then, of course, social media falls in line with that. Now, I'm not suggesting that a shop that doesn't have a social media presence or a website couldn't be good. It's possible. But your odds of picking a really great shop are somebody that really cares about their online reputation. #2, are they actually a dealer for the product that they represent? And up here in Pennsylvania, where I'm at right now, we don't have this problem too much with competitors, but down in Florida, there's a lot of shops that claim to carry a product and they don't. There's a lot of big brands out there. They all make a really high quality material. You're probably safe with any of them. But what happens if a shop is lying to you and saying they're putting that on and they're actually putting on some Chinese film that's going to turn purple in 6 months? You want to make sure they're not going to do that to you. One of the ways to do that is by going to the manufacturer website. So you got to figure out from that shop, what manufacturer do you use? We use XPEL. If you go to XPEL's website and look at the dealer locator, you're going to find our shops on there. Same with 3M, same with Lumar, same with Suntech. You're going to find similar sort of website setups. Now, if they're not on there, chances are they're not a registered dealer with that manufacturer, or they don't purchase enough to even be on that dealer locator, which means even if they are selling you that film, they're probably not very experienced with it. Step 3, maybe the most important, is to look at their work in person. Nobody can decide what you're going to be happy with other than you. I recommend going to the shop and just asking, hey, can I see a car? If they're a real tint shop, they should have more than 1 car that they're either working on actively or that's sitting outside drying, ready to go home, something like that. You should be able to see an example of their work. They shouldn't put up a fight for that. You should be able to look it over. And you're going to find a speck of debris here and there in basically every install, but are there any big bubbles? Is there anything peeling or lifting? How does the top edge look? Those are the kind of things that I would be looking at. And #4, if you're in their shop looking at the tint jobs, perhaps as important as the tint job is the shop itself. Do they have a nice presence to their shop? Is it clean? Or is there stuff everywhere? That might not seem like a big deal. Is it possible to be an amazing tinter and also have stuff all over the garage? Absolutely. I've seen it. But do you want to pull your brand new car into a garage bay where there's 3 ladders over on the side that maybe if somebody trips, the ladder's going to fall and hit your car? I've seen stuff like that happen too. Or do you want extra dirt to end up in your tint job, and when you bring it up, they say, hey man, we're not in a controlled environment. Well, I get it. We're not in a controlled environment here either, but we do everything we can to make sure that it's as clean as possible so that there's minimal dirt and debris in your tint job. If they leave their shop a mess, how do you think that they're going to leave your car when they're done with it? Chances are you're going to end up with streaks all over the door panels, inside and out, things like that. So I think it's a sign that a shop and a tinter takes pride in their work if their area is clean. And I think you should probably feel the same. And #5, something that a lot of people probably thought I would start with, but that's really about the tint job. How do they tint your car? There's a few different ways to skin a cat here. You could pull door panels or you could not pull door panels. If they do pull door panels, are they really good at it? You don't want to have a broken door panel. Our shops typically do pull panels, or at least pull the seal out of the bottom of the window to make sure that our tint gets low enough so that it's not going to peel on you later. Now, with that being said, you got to have guys that are trained to do that. So keep that in mind when you're asking questions. Do they do it hand cut or plotter cut? Now, this one's going to cause all sorts of problems for our commenters, especially if you are a tinter. I'm not saying that hand cutting tinters aren't good. In fact, you're probably better. I started off hand cutting for many, many years. And if you're a great hand cutter, you can do an awesome tint job and everything's going to go very well. Plotters and software have been out for quite some time now, and they've gotten very, very good. Our softwares that we use, basically as good as a hand cut tint job. So what does that mean? That means if you have a shop that's not using a plotter and software, plotter is basically a machine that cuts the tint. So you put the year, make, and model of the car in, and you press a button and it cuts the windows for that car. Now, if you're not using one as a shop, there's two reasons. Number one, you either believe that you're better than the machine, which again, like I said, is possible, but highly unlikely at this point. You're definitely not as fast as the machine. But number two, maybe you think that the software or the plotter is too expensive. A lot of times I've seen where a shop owner won't buy the plotter or the software for the tinter because they just don't see the value in the investment. Now, somebody that won't take care of their employees and won't provide the tools that they need to do their job properly is typically not somebody that I want working on my car. I want people that invest in their business, that are here to grow, that invest in their employees and give them the right tools to do the job. So for me, no plotter, no software is an indication that maybe the shop is a little bit too old school for me to be happy with. With that being said, there are definitely some exceptions in this category where the best tinter in the area is a hand cutter. There's no question. So you're going to have to do your research and weigh your options, but keep that in mind while you're doing it. And so who cares if they do hand cut and they don't use a machine besides, some of the technological advantages? The other reason is simply the actual knife. If you're hand cutting tint, it's exactly what it sounds like. You have a blade in your hand and you are cutting the tint, and typically that's done on the car. And you use the top edge of the glass, and maybe you'll make some marks on the side where the rubber seal is. And typically, if there's a good hand cutting tinter, you're never going to have a problem. With that being said, with a plotter, if you have a good software that cuts tint accurately, they're never going to have to put a knife near your car. So the chances of cutting a rubber seal accidentally, of dropping a knife on the paint and putting a chip in the fender or the door, of accidentally pushing too hard when they're cutting around the back window or the front windshield and cutting the glass, that possibility doesn't exist if you remove the knife from the equation. Now again, great tinters, guys that are skilled, they know how to do all of these things without causing damage. It's not something that would be a definite no for me, but you gotta ask those questions and you've got to look into things like this. Thank you guys for tuning into this video. I hope that I gave you some sort of ammunition to help you find a tint job that's going to do a great job on your car. When you're looking for more advice about window tint, PPF, and ceramic, check us out, subscribe to the channel. See you next video.